right, guys. Well, welcome, welcome. I am so excited. This is like the first of a whole lecture series that HCS is going to do with holistic healers of all varieties that are going to come on and speak and educate people about what they do. And the reason why I'm so excited about this is because I feel like holistic healers and the medical world and the clinical world and the addiction world have been so separated. And yet everyone's doing this great work. So it'd be so great to just get more information out to the world that I'm kind of in, which is the mental health addiction world, and join hands. Because the holistic healing world can be such a fabulous adjunct to a lot of the folks that we work with that are suffering. And there's so much suffering in this world right now, and we need as much help as we can get and collaborations. So today, we've got the lovely Codie Lea here, and she does amazing work in human design. It would be so good to know how many people know about human design. Maybe you can put a little thumbs up if you're not your face, because I'd love to know like how many people like know anything about it. So if you know something about human design, give me a thumbs up. Okay, this is good. So we're starting with like a fresh, we've got a little bit. Okay, this is lovely. Oh, I'm so excited. That'll be so great, Codie. To know you've got, just kind of a group of people that really want
I got all newbies. How exciting.
I love human design myself because I love anything that helps me learn about myself so that I could be a better human on the planet. And I think it's such a great tool for us all to utilize, because when we know ourselves and we like ourselves, then we can have healthier relationships with other people, and then everybody's happy. I'm just going to solve the world's problems through human design. So anyway, I don't want to spend too much time on this. I'm going to have Miss Darcy talk a little bit about Codie and do a little bio. And then we're going to let Codie speak. And then I'm going to kind of tap her because I think there's going to be lots of questions. And I want to make sure you guys have time to do that, probably about 10 minutes before. And then we'll wrap it up. Codie did put her information, you guys, in the chat room. She does virtual and in person. She actually resides in Missouri, in Liberty, Missouri. But for all of those other folks out of state, because there are some of you in this room, she can do virtual. So I am going to pass the baton to you, Miss Darcy.
Fantastic. Hello, everybody joining live and on replay. I'm Darcy Meehan from Hirschman Clinical Services, and want to introduce Codie. Codie Lea has discovered human design and is translating it to people in all different knowledge bases, people who are new, like a lot of us, and people who are more educated and already inspired by the practice. Codie discovered human design in 2018 during her BodyMind coaching training, and finding it incredibly transformative for both personal and professional growth. She has dedicated herself to understanding and embodying human design principles, helping others align with their unique profiles. And Codie's passion for human design has led to remarkable client transformations that keep the work going. Beyond her professional life, Codie is an avid tea lover and painter, fun fact, enjoying creating portraits in her spare time. She's also an enthusiastic reader with a particular fondness for romance novels. Me too. Codie believes that each person's inner authority comes from the body and that joy is the key to freedom. She continually invests in her personal growth through coaching, spiritual guidance, and ongoing learning. And in this upcoming presentation, Codie's going to be providing an introduction and overview of human design, demonstrating how it can enhance personal and professional lives, which is why all of us are here. And Codie's aim is to empower therapists, particularly, and everybody to trust their inner authority. We'll learn what that is, and helping all of us flourish and shine our unique lights. So, really, really pleased to be here and look forward to seeing how you're going to guide all of us in the next bit of time. Codie, it's all you.
Yay. Well, thank you so much, both Michelle and Darcy, for introducing me and for having me be the first person. I'm so excited. So I will preface this with, I have a huge passion for human design, and it's a lot of information all at once. So if you have questions, please ask. If you have questions that come after today, please reach out, send them to me. I absolutely love it. So I'm just going to kind of do a really nice overview and help you kind of get a foundation for human design. So human design is based off of 4 systems that integrate together. One is the astrology system. One is the I Ching system, which is a 5,000-year-old divination system. The other is the Kabbalah tree of life. And the last one is the chakra system. And it all comes together to help you understand your owner's manual for your vehicle in this lifetime. And I feel like that's really the basis of what human design has to offer. It also is a really great and grand experiment. So I always like to encourage people to play with it, experiment with it, understand it, try and, learn some things and then go out and use it, because a part of human design is meant to be lived, to be experienced. And I also, this is just a part of who I am, take what you need and leave the rest. And so I'm going to start with the 2 most foundational pieces of human design that I think everything builds off of these 2. And everything else is, I feel like, ancillary. It's great. It's fantastic. I love diving into it, but it has to go through these first 2 lenses. And that's what I'm really going to kind of give us today. So the 2 lenses that we're going to talk about is your type, which lends to what your strategy is. And strategy is really, really important for knowing how best you operate in the world and how best to move with the energy through your own system, right? I like to refer to your type as kind of like, if we were to go back to the owner's manual in the vehicle, is, are you a Maserati? Are you a sailboat? Are you a helicopter? All of those are going to require different means of moving in the world, different fuels, different taking care of the vehicle. They're going to require different things. And so when we look at that, we're looking at the 5 types in human design, which are generator, which makes up 70% of the population, manifesting generator, which makes up 40% of that 70%, right? So manifesting generator and generator are your 2 most prolific types, if you will. I lovingly like to refer to them as like they're the race cars, your Maseratis and your vehicles that are cars. That's what they are, right? Then 20% of the population are projectors. They have a different strategy than your generators. Your generators are here to alchemize life force energy and turn it into creation. They're here to take passionate projects, take the energy of life, the everything that's moving around us, and then basically turn it into manifestation. Not that not everyone can do that. Everyone does do that. They just do it in different ways. A part of a generator is the doer. They're here to do and to make shit happen. And that's so powerful because they're such powerful kind of go-getters. And they're really here to operate for long periods of time within a day, meaning, when you find a generator, find something that they're passionate about, 12 hours, they can work on that one thing that they're passionate about, and they still have energy to like burn. Like I jokingly, lovingly refer to them as the Energizer Bunny. They really can go, go, go. And that is what they're designed to do. They're directly tapped into life force energy, which is so powerful and so critical. And so then when you have your 70% generators, manifesting generators, you then have your 20%, which is your projectors. Projectors are here. Their strategy is to their goal is to guide and direct. That's what their energy is here to do. They see deeply into the other and then are able to guide and direct that energy in the most effective, streamlined, successful way. And oftentimes they see the other better than they see themselves. And so that energy of seeing deeply into the other, they also usually have a lot of open centers, which allows them to see deeply into the other and then be able to guide and direct them. And so they make up 20%, and you're going to start to see how each of these need each other in order to be successful, right? It's kind of like the generator can go out and do and be the Energizer Bunny, but sometimes if they don't have the other types to help them, like, hey, you're going in the wrong direction. Like, why don't you just go over here first? Oh yeah, that's a much better direction. Like, they help each other kind of navigate, which gives the projector, which gives some of the manifestors kind of their purpose also in their connection. And so 9% of the population, we're going down to the fourth type, the 9% of the population are manifestors. And manifestors are here to guide and direct like kings and queens, where a projector is here to guide and direct like maybe more of like a shaman healer, like spiritually, the energy would be good for you. A king and queen is like, we're going right. Everybody, we go right. And so that's the energy of that manifestor energy, is this instantly going towards something, having a creative kind of a download, and then immediately manifesting on it, or immediately taking action on it, or initiating on it. And when you understand that energy, sometimes manifestors can also feel very repellent in their energy. Like, you either love them or you hate them. A really great example of a manifestor is Frida Kahlo. If anybody knows her artwork, people loved her or they hated her. There was not a lot of middle ground. But she was very transformative in her presence through art and through culture and through her Mexican culture. And so that is the potential of a manifestor, is to have that energy of disruption and like manifestation in that regard, of like changing things up and creating mass change in a really good way. And so there's so much beauty in that. And then the final type of the 5 is your reflector, and they are 1% of the population. I lovingly also refer to them as unicorns, because there's not always a lot of them. I've met, in my 7 years so far, I've only met 3 of them. And it is fun to when I meet them, I'm always like, oh my God, you're a reflector. Tell me everything about your life. So I can learn and understand reflectors deeper. Reflectors are here to reflect the consciousness of the group in what's working, what's not working, what direction we need to go, how best we need to go there. They have an innate ability to like see kind of the collective, to take in all of the details and then reflect back all of that in a very overview sort of way. Now, when I say collective, that can mean the collective of an organization, the collective of your small group, the collective of the family, the collective. It doesn't have to be like collective consciousness, although they have a great capacity for that. It doesn't have to be that. A really great reflector that sometimes, that really I feel like is evolving and living her design, is, if you know her very well, her name is Teal Swan. She talks a lot and reflects a lot about things in the consciousness. And when you hear her talk, you can kind of hear her reflective nature. They also have this really beautiful effect of being very chameleon-like. They can be comfortable and get to know anyone in just about any circle. And there's such beauty in that. And what makes them so special is they have no centers are filled in. I'm going to talk about centers at the very end, but it's like they're basically wide open, able to absorb all the world around them, which allows them to be the reflector in their nature. Okay. So if I was to kind of go an overview, and I like to play the game of like both cars, and like to really understand this is 1400, Europe in the Renaissance period. Your generators are the people. They are the people that make things happen. Your manifestors are your kings and queens, and they direct things. Your manifesting generators are your overlords. They help direct the people, but they also listen to the kings and queens, but they have both of, we're going to make things happen, and also we're going to direct things, right? Then you have your projectors, and they're a lot like your shamans and your healers. You kind of have a few of them, but you don't have a lot. And then your reflectors are like your oracle. You only have one in the whole like society group that reflects the thing of everything, right? So that's how I kind of try and help mentally break this down. Otherwise, it's just, I'm throwing words at you and you're just like, what do I do with that, right? So those are all the types. Now, each of those have a specific strategy. And this is why it's so important to understand what your type is, what your client's type is, because it's a lot like understanding their strategy is like understanding, are you a Maserati or are you a sailboat? Because if you're a Maserati, then I can give you this advice. I can tell you to put gas in your car and it's going to be successful. If you're a sailboat, telling you to put gas on your vehicle to make it run, it's going to fail every time, right? Because the sailboat needs wind. It needs a different form of energy in order to move through the world. And so understanding that the type, which lends itself to what the strategy is so incredibly important. So I'm going to break down the strategy for each and kind of go over each. So your generators, whether it's a manifesting generator or generator, they always have the strategy to respond. Now, the caveat is there's always in front, wait to respond. Wait to respond. And what does that mean? Because sometimes it can feel like, oh, I have to wait for something. We get so kind of impatient, I feel like, in our society and our culture. But waiting is allowing the world to come to you and give you something to respond to, right? Giving you something to say yes or no. And that yes and no is so incredibly valuable. And how to understand what is correct for you and what is not correct for you is a part of your inner authority, which I'm going to get into next, because that's the second most important component of human design. First is your type and strategy. Second is your authority. So when you understand your type and you understand that your strategy is to respond, well, there's a lot of things to respond to. In fact, there are probably 15 things you already responded to this morning. Did you respond to what you were going to wear today? Did you respond to what you were going to eat for breakfast, having your tea, having your coffee, the drive to work? Like, you had all of these decisions to make that you were able to respond to. We also have great opportunities in our life where an ad pops up on Facebook and we're like, oh, that's the thing. That's the thing I've been looking for. I didn't even know it, but thank you, algorithm, i.e. the traditional algorithm was God. Thank you, universe. So allowing yourself to understand that there's always something for you to respond to is really, really important. And the waiting is just you allowing yourself to settle into your body and know that things are always coming to you. You don't have to like go out and make it happen. Okay, you don't have to like go out and seek it. It's going to come to you. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. The difference between a generator and a manifesting generator has to do with that manifesting energy. So a generator who's a manifesting generator, their strategy is wait to respond, then inform. Because the informing is so important for the manifestor energy, because manifestor energy is all about initiation. Their strategy is to initiate. I'm going to talk about that in a minute when I get to manifestors. But the important thing about initiating is you kind of have to inform the people that your decision is going to impact. You have to inform them that you're making a decision. Like, if you're leading a group of people and you want to go right, just going right might confuse everybody. They might lose track of where you're at or what's going on. Informing is not asking for permission, though, and that's one of the things that's really, really important to understand. So when you're a manifesting generator, you're using this creative life force energy. You're able to initiate on fun ideas, but it's all about feeling the guidance, responding to the thing, letting people know, and then acting. So there's a really potent energy that happens with that. Manifesting generators also have a tendency to create without completion. And this is really hard for manifesting generators. You are designed to like start things, but not always finish them. And that's okay, because your energy is about the initiation and the creation of the initiation, but sometimes it's not always about the completion. Maybe it's about passing it off so that others can complete it. So manifesting generators are kind of referred to as like time benders. They can take futuristic concepts and bring them into reality. So it's like they're bending time in and of itself. I think of this also as like the person that like breaks the toaster to understand how a toaster works, never puts it back together, but then builds a race car, like like a kid that like builds a small race car based off of what they learned about the toaster. Like they go build something else, but they never completed this project, but they completed this concept over here, right? That's a little bit about what a manifesting generator is all about. want. A really great example of a manifesting generator to help understand this concept is Elon Musk. He's brought the future into the present. Whether or not you agree with him or don't, he has revolutionized how we deal with electric cars, how we deal with, going into space. Like, there's concepts that he brings into the present that he had to work through a lot of stuff to get there. And now he has teams and he just passes it on. He moves on to the next project, regardless of whether or not we agree with it. So there's a really great understanding in how that energy works. And to give people permission to start and not necessarily finish is probably one of the greatest gifts that you can give them. All right, now since I've kind of talked about manifestors, I'm going to go into manifestors and I'll come back to projectors and reflectors. So manifestors, their strategy is to initiate. It is to take action on their inner guidance, their inner inspiration, their inner, kind of like, oh, I should do this thing, go and do it. I recently had a client come in. She was like, oh, that makes sense. I always start projects at random times. Like the other night, I decided at 9 o'clock at night, I was going to organize all of my paints. And I was like, yep, because the energy was there for you and you needed to initiate on it. Now, what happens for manifestors is they're often told, don't do that now, do it later, stop this, stop that. And it stifles the energy from its natural flow. When you stifle the energy, it creates a sense of anger and frustration, really more based on anger. And when you have that, you create a stifling of yourself, your sense of identity, who you are, when really that energy just needs to move, it needs to happen. So a lot of times when I'm working with manifestors, I encourage them to take immediate action on whatever their idea is or inspiration. Even if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and they just woke up with this crazy cool idea, get up, get out of bed, write it down, take action on it, take some initiatory action on it. Now, they also have a little bit of a strategy to inform, right? Initiate, inform. It's kind of like this caveat of but also inform. Because when you inform, and again, I'm going to go back to when I said earlier with the manifesting generator, informing is not asking for permission. Informing is letting people know that the decision is going to impact, letting those people know that you're making this decision. Because what can be created in relationships for manifestors is this they never include me. I never know what's going on. They just take these weird actions and I don't understand. And I just want to be included. Just let me know. And there can be a lot of strife in relationships when a manifestor doesn't just inform the people around them the decision that they're making. Or the direction that they're going, or oh, I'm going to do this thing, right? Now, again, if you're inspired at 2 o'clock in the morning and your husband or your partner or whatever is laying in bed, you don't have to hey, I'm going to get up and go do this thing. You can go up and do the thing. But if all of a sudden you're oh, I need to start a non-for-profit organization, you better inform some people about what's going to go on, especially those closest to you. Or if you have a project that you're working on in your work and you need to go a completely different direction because your energy tells you that's the correct motive, that's the correct way, you have to trust that. You just have to inform the people on your team that, hey, we're going to shift directions. We're going to go in a different direction. And I hope if you're a manifesting generator, you also hear this is true for you and to some degree, because that happens the same. Okay. All right. Then I'm going to go to projectors. Projectors' strategy is to wait for the invitation. Now, for those of us who are projectors, I am a projector, and learning that I had to wait for the invitation at first felt very debilitating. It felt oh, what am I have to I just sit on my hands and just wait here, but what do I do with myself, right? And so a part of the wait, whether you're a generator or a projector or you're a reflector, because again, the only one that doesn't necessarily have to wait are our manifestors. If you're in a wait, you cultivate your joy. You go do something that brings you joy. So a part of waiting for the invitation, the most important place that the invitation happens is for your big ticket life items, your career, your relationship, where you're going to live, those kinds of things. They need a bit more of a formal invitation. And I want to kind of explain this. So before I even knew I was a human design, before any of it, right, I met my husband, and my husband, who is a generator, didn't know that. I'm a projector, didn't know that. He and I were kind of courting, dating, getting to know each other. And shortly into our courting, dating, it was probably a few months in, he gives me I kid you not, this very cute card that had these pictures on them of him holding up a sign that says, "Will you be my girlfriend?" Right? Talk about a formal invitation, like blown away, right? Of course he did it. And I was like, this is the most adorable thing I've ever seen in my life. Nobody's ever done this to me. My whole body lit up and was like, this is a yes. This isn't just a yes, this is a fuck yes, please. Right? And so I leaned in and of course said yes. Well, then later when I learned that I was a projector and he was a generator and I needed formal invitations, I was like, oh my God, that makes sense. And so understanding that about yourself is really critical. Understanding that even about your loved ones is also really critical. A projector in general doesn't have connection to life force energy. So no matter how passionate we are about something, we cannot go 12 hours. Projectors can only have about a max capacity of 4 to 6 hours, maybe 8 hours of really intense work. And if that 8 hours is happening in a day, usually the next day you have to have like 4 hours, like you have to back it off. And so understanding that projectors and manifestors and reflectors are really part-time types and your generators and your manifesting generators are full-time types is a really critical thing to understand, not only for yourself, but also when you're working with your clients. Because if they're like, oh, I'm constantly exhausted, I can't, I can't do this. Well, finding out if they're a projector, if they're a manifestor, if they're a reflector will help you understand that, well, maybe we just need to navigate how much you're working. In this, what is really critical to understand is projectors can sometimes get a lot more work done in a shorter amount of time because of the way that their energy in the mind works. They can short circuit things fairly quickly. They are also designed to guide people. So they have to wait for the invitation in order to guide and direct. If you don't wait for the invitation, your guidance will always fall on deaf ears or angry ears. It just depends on which one of the day, right? Because you're not being recognized, the energy is not being recognized as, oh, you have something to give me. I recognize you as someone that can give me something, so I'm going to pay attention. Oftentimes the recognition is not there, and if the recognition is not there, it is not received well. And then it creates a disconnect for the projector. So understanding this about you, you then can conserve your energy in a really good way. They're the sailboats. If you haven't noticed, they're the sailboats, right? You conserve your energy, and when the wind is correct, everything aligns and you can move swiftly. And so that's the power of understanding your strategy as a projector. And the strategy for a reflector is to reflect. It's to literally take the world in and give it back, really in a really beautiful way. And so a lot of times that's why they can be very chameleon, is because they are reflective in their nature and just who they are, in giving back to the world kind of what they see and what they hear and what they feel. But a lot of this can feel very like, organic, almost like, I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to do or who I'm supposed to be, because a part of who I'm supposed to be is a reflective being, and that can feel very intimidating. But when we understand that, when we understand there's power in that, then there's so much that we can give back to our communities in that process. Understanding that about your client helps them understand that it's okay if who they are today and who they are tomorrow and who they are the next day and who they are the next day might evolve. And it might evolve within 24 hours, or it might evolve depending on who they're around. And that's the critical part in that, is they are reflective of who they spend the most time with. And they often become who they spend the most time with. Not only do all of us, but especially for reflectors. And when I say they become, I mean, they literally can have the same health issues, have the same mental issues, like they can become almost carbon copies. It's a little crazy. That's when they're the most unhealthy. Let me be clear on that. When you're the most healthy, you don't absorb it all. You're able, a reflector is able to reflect it back and see what's working, what's not working, make adjustments. But when they're not, when they're unconscious, they can absorb, and then literally they'll just end up being a carbon copy of those around them and not necessarily the healthiest version. Okay. I'm going to pause on that because that's a lot of information before I dive into authority and why authority is so critical. And I'm actually going to pause right now and say, do we have any questions? Because I gave you a lot of information. And how many people want to know what their type is or already know what their type is? Okay, I'm going to drop in a link. Go get your chart there. You do need to know your date of birth, time of birth, and location of birth. Nope, I spelled it wrong. Don't click on that one. jovianarchive.com. Okay. Second one is correct. Ignore the first one. And you can figure out what type you are, which kind of helps you work with that energy for yourself and what I just kind of reflected back to you. So no questions?
I have a question. Did
Yes.
you say anything about within the types, and that might be more detailed? Is there something called an emotional generator?
That's authority. We're going to talk about that.
You are okay. So that goes into the next topic. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know that this is a question necessarily, but I'm just kind of curious, like living in a culture where so much focus is put on generating, I guess, or like creating and productivity in the capitalist society, like does that tend to affect how people, I mean, relate and step into their, I don't know, natural, can it skew people's understanding?
100%.
Yeah.
Yep. So a lot of times what you'll find is your projectors and your reflectors, sometimes your manifestors, although they have the capacity for the doing. So that advice of going out there and doing it, making it happen, work, hard work, hustle. Those are so generator based and manifesting generator based that some of that same advice is the wrong advice for a projector or reflector and will completely skew their identity to the point that they will end up in severe burnout to the point that it's massive health issues if they try and operate like a generator for most of their life. So I did go through a period and a part of human design, there's this thing they talk about called deconditioning, where you're deconditioning whatever thought forms, structures, beliefs that you had said yes to early in life, whether you're a generator or not, it doesn't matter. If you have an open center, and when you look at a chart, there is a where the chakras are, those are called open centers. And if those are open, meaning they are clear white, not colored in means they're basically yours. When they're white, it means that it's a place where you can tap into others. You can absorb others or you can receive from others. There's two ways. The healthy version is to receive from others and like have a filter in a window and it comes in and it goes out, right? The not as healthy way is to completely absorb it like a sponge. And so if you have someone, a projector who only has two filters, it's two centers filled in and the rest are way open, then what you have is someone who can absorb the identity of everyone around them, and therefore they're living the wrong energy. Again, we'll kind of go back to the sailboat Maserati. Like if you're trying to live life as a Maserati and you keep failing, but everyone around you is successful, it's going to be really frustrating. When you then learn that, well, you're actually a sailboat or you're actually a locomotive and you require, or a steamboat. Sometimes I feel like that's what reflectors are. We're just steamboats. We're just here floating around doing the thing, right? But they require very different things in order to be hugely successful. It doesn't mean that they can't be successful. It just means they need to be operating within their owner's manual. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so now I'm going to move on to authority because it's so, so important. So now we understand why understanding your type and your strategy is step number one, right? Oh, this is how I have to respond to the world, if you will. Number two is your authority. Your inner authority is how you understand / connect with your intuition, okay? So intuition is a word we throw around a lot, but we don't always know how do we access that. A lot of people will be like, well, it's your gut instinct. Like you just feel it in your gut. That is true for all of my generators. So again, this is true advice for 70% of the population with some caveats, because there's some minor caveats that we'll talk about here in a minute. And that has to do with your question, Michelle, about emotions. The other types often have completely different authorities, meaning it's always in the body. Your authority, no matter what, is in your body. Where you experience the sensation of what is correct for you and what is not correct for you is experienced in the body. Where you experience in the body or how you experience it in the body is based off of your inner authority. Okay. So I'll go over really quick. The easiest way to understand, like your top authorities, because there's 7 different authorities and I don't have time for all that. Right. So I'm going to give you the most prevalent ones and the ones that are most important and likely the ones that most of your clients are going to have. Okay. So generators, their authority is sacral. It is in their gut. It literally is a gut response. And when the gut responds, it responds like this. That's it. So sometimes when I'm helping people understand, especially generators, how to connect with their gut instinct, their intuition, because let's be honest, we're often taught to be analytical, to be logical, to think our way through a decision rather than to trust ourselves. When we have that and we've shut off that trusting of ourselves, I invite someone to drop into their belly, into their body, and don't answer a single question with yes or no. If you've answered with yes or no, you've gone into your head. And that helps them get into the because it literally is a gut response. So I want you to think about for yourself, like, are there times where you've literally heard yourself, if you're a generator, be like, yeah, let's do that. But like the first response is, because that is literally your gut saying something is correct for you. Okay. The reason this is so important is because you have so many things in your life to respond to. You have so many opportunities to be connected to this aspect of yourself. There's also a little hack I'm going to give you for everyone that's in a relationship. Hello, all of us. When working with generators, it is in their best interest and yours to ask yes, no questions. I would avoid asking open-ended questions if you want to come to a decision or if you're trying to help them come to a decision. Open-ended questions do not rely on them connecting with their own inner authority. It makes them go into the head, which actually disconnects you from your inner authority. When you go into a yes, no question, like, do you want tacos? Right? It's an instant answer and it's an instant solve. So this is really great. Everyone will understand this. What is the one topic we always deal with in relationships which drives just about everybody crazy? What do you want for dinner? I encourage you, if you're a generator or you're with a generator, start asking, do you want meat or vegetables? Like, don't ask or questions, just ask one. Do you want meat? Do you want vegetables? Do you want salad? Do you want steak? Do you want tacos? Do you want, like, I'm asking yes, no questions and waiting for that or that And that's really important when we're working in our relationships, when we're working with our clients. If I'm working with a generator, whether it's coaching for human design or even just massage, and a lot of times if I don't know if they're generator, I'll lean towards asking yes, no questions because they're probably going to be generators, right? 70%. When I lean into that, I help them get to the answer much quicker than if I ask open-ended questions and they oscillate. They move in this world of kind of chaos in their head. It gets to the answer for yourself quicker too. So I encourage you, if you are a generator, to ask yourself yes, no questions. If you're trying to solve something, whether it's for work or in your business or your marketing or whatever else, ask yourself yes, no questions. So if you're designing a pamphlet and you want to know if you should use blue or if you should use green or if you should use a darker color or a lighter color, stop and ask your gut, do I use dark colors? Do I use light colors? Do I use pink? Do I use green? Do I use turquoise? Right? Like turquoise is a kind of green. It kind of gave me maybe a green. So then I'm going to explore what green is and the different color of green, right? Lime green. So allowing yourself to lean into that yes, no question for yourself is really, really important. It'll help you connect with that authority. Now, the caveat to your sacral authorities is your emotional authorities. Now, there's kind of two versions of emotional authorities, and this isn't always clear. You have your emotional authorities that have a sacral base, because those are generators and manifesting generators. And then you have your emotional authorities that have no sacral. They have no gut. There's no yes, no, it's all emotion. Those are going to be your manifestors, and your projectors. The reflector is the only one who has the only authority that is only based on their type. And so I'll give you at that, because if you ever have a reflector, girl, reach out. We got to talk. I'm going to help you. Because a reflector, their authority is a 28-day moon cycle. They have to sit with a decision for 28 days before they know if it's correct for them or not. It's kind of like going to a buffet every single day and trying the food. And if out of those 28 days, 20 of them, the food is good, and only 8 of them, the food is bad, that restaurant is a good restaurant to go to. That's kind of the example. Okay. So they're, again, 1% of the population. So that authority you don't come into contact with that authority very often, but when you do, it's really important to encourage them to explore that aspect of themselves. Because again, if they're like your question, Leslie, if they're conditioned to believe their gut, they're going to be confused, because their gut every day is going to say something different. Their body is going to tell them something different every day. And it's the consensus that is important for them to really understand. Why is this important to know? This is important to know because emotional authorities are somewhat similar. They just have a shorter time frame. It's like 3 days instead of 28. So when you have an emotional authority, they're feeling, this feels right, it doesn't feel right. This feels good, it doesn't feel good. Their feeling based is their marker for what is correct for them and what isn't. Why is this so important to know as a therapist? We are taught in this culture not to feel. We are taught in this culture to be analytical, to analyze, to be in our head, to process in our head, not to actually feel our feelings. You are teaching everyone, you're guiding everyone on how to feel their feelings and how to feel themselves in their body. And so understanding that when you have a feeling-based authority, them trusting the feeling in their body, which sometimes it can show up in their, right here where their solar plexus is, the sacral center is right down here, right? This is your gut, right? They can either hit here or they can feel it in their heart. Just depends on how it shows up in their body, okay? And so understanding that feeling base, which is kind of fun when you think about, so many people are like, well, trust how does it feel to you? That's something that we say in our culture because we have feeling-based authorities. How does it feel in your heart? Because we have heart-based authorities. That's why those show up in our culture. So understanding when you have an emotional authority, you're feeling the wave. You're feeling as the thing comes to you to respond to, you kind of have to feel through. Now, the caveat there is like, if it comes to an apple, you don't have to wait 3 days to know if that apple feels right for you to eat, okay? You can use your gut. You can use that feeling of like, oh, I'm feeling drawn to this. Yes, it's for me. It's more when someone is like, I have this job offer for you. Would you like to move to Hawaii and take this job? Sit with that for 3 days, okay? Like take some time, feel into that one. What you also notice is people that have this feeling-based authority, they probably already practice it to some degree. It's just the people that have shut themselves off from their emotions that sometimes can have a hard time connecting with this aspect of their inner authority, okay? And then the other kind of inner authorities are gonna be slightly different. So I'll kind of go over those really quickly. You have a splenic authority, which is in the present moment and it's auditory. It is a sensorial feeling of like hearing somebody whispering something to you or just having this sensorial, you still feel it in the body, but it's almost like a feeling overcomes you, like somebody's talking to you and then you know what's correct for you. It's very in the moment and it does not repeat itself. There's a lot of fun in that and a lot of not fun in that. There is a environmental based authority where you need to be in the correct environment to feel what is correct for you, kind of echoing back. And then there is what sometimes shows up as a mental authority, which is deceiving, or a non-authority. And again, that's going to be based off of where you are, your environment, who you're around, the receptivity of the feeling within you. There's a lot of nuances in that one. Your projectors and your manifestors, again, are the only two that are going to have those authorities. And the only other authority you have is a self-projected. This is somebody who needs to talk it out to hear what is correct for them. They still feel it in their body, but they actually have to move the energy through their throat center, and they have to talk it and then hear it in reflection. The challenge for them is they often are talkers, but they often find themselves surrounded by people who try and give them advice rather than give them questions. So these are the people you want to ask open-ended questions to, or reflect back what you're hearing and then ask a follow-up question. Because though that way you're actually serving the inner authority in allowing them to talk more deeply rather than giving them the advice. People that give them the advice, it really does them more harm than it does them good, because their own inner authority is experienced through hearing it themselves, them hearing. Because a lot of times they'll be talking through it and they're like, oh, that's it. I heard it. That's the thing. That's what I need to do. And then they go off and they do the thing, and that's all they need. So allowing yourself to be a sounding board for them, it can be really, really important in understanding that. Or teaching them how to surround themselves with the correct sounding boards can be a really, really important thing to do for them. Okay. So those are kind of the overview of your inner authorities. What questions do we have? I think we're at the 10-minute mark, kind of. So why don't we just open it up and ask any and all questions you have.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one, thank you. It's like sponge. And then part of my question is actually about how to digest some of this material and be able to understand and then apply some of the basics of like my type. So
Yes.
I'm an emotional manifester,
Mm-hmm.
and that like learning about the like the strategy to inform, and did you say inform and initiate?
Initiate and then inform. Always first initiate and then inform.
That's helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I will change that in my note. So initiate and inform, like, do you have an example of how me now knowing that about myself, I can begin to apply it, experiment with it, see how it benefits me? Because I really like, I see you as this teacher and also the coaching of being able to inform and then apply. So could you share about how we might be able to do that? Or
yeah. So you really want to, one of the things, especially for manifestors, that can be really important is to look at the areas in your life where you have had creative inspiration, you've had inspirational flow, and then also where you've had inspiration blocked, where you maybe stopped, whether conscious or unconscious, you're in inspirational flow, and look at the look at those in comparison to see what you can learn about yourself in that process. When you were able to go and flow, where were you in your life? Who was around you? Who was supporting you? Because that's going to probably be, and if you're not in a place where like it's easy for you to connect to like just initiating on your creative flow, then allow yourself to kind of start playing with that of like, oh, I feel this creative like compulsion. It really does feel like a little bit like a compulsion, like, oh, I have to go do this thing. Then follow it and do it. Even if it means you have to stop what you're doing exactly when you're doing it, or you have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and take the action, then do it, because it's going to be empowering to your overall experience to understand how to move that energy and then become reflective, kind of like in a scientist, right? If this is a human experiment with what happens when I just flow with it. Am I given more energy? Do I feel more in alignment? Do I learn more about myself in the process? Does things around me move more smoothly? And if it's a creative idea, let's say you're working on a project with Michelle and she's wanting you to write something. And as you're writing it, you get this inspiration that we need to go completely a different direction. Then inform her of this creative expression that you have. And even if she says, don't do it, still take action on it. That's the tricky part. Now, I don't think Michelle is going to be like, don't do that. Now that she knows you're a manifestor, I'm sure she'll be like, okay, well, go explore that and let's see where it goes, right? But for those people who, it's like the action still needs to be taken, the energy still needs to move. If that energy stagnates, it will create anger. That is your not self theme. When you are in anger, you are then blocking the energetic flow and it's not correct for you. That's when it's like your flag to know, oh, I did something. I did not follow my strategy or my authority. I'm angry, so therefore one of those two is off. Does that help give you support in that area?
Absolutely. And a framework to be able to, what you said about the experimenting. So be able to apply that. I'm interested in some different details around, relationship, and because this is a wide world to explore. So I'll take
It
my time.
is. And I want to kind of go to a little bit of a core question that kind of was within your question, and that is how to engage your human design when there's just so much information. It is really like engage it by practicing your strategy and authority first. Don't look into anything else. You can. It's totally fun too. I got lost. Obviously, that's why I'm here, right? But when you go to dive more into human design, use your strategy and authority in the process. So if you're a generator, ask yourself, do I learn about my profile? Or right? Follow that. Use your strategy and authority in the experiment to learn more about human design. When I kind of leaned into this process for myself as a projector, I literally waited for someone to ask me a question about something. And I was like, this gives me permission to go explore that thing deeper. Because I wanted to play with what happens if I didn't just consume, initiate. Like I was such a generator in a projector body that I had so much deconditioning to do that in the process of going deeper into your human design, use your strategy and authority. Okay, your question, dear. Go on. Is it Leona?
Leona, as you've been talking, you remind me so much of my sister. So I text her. I was like, what's your birthday? I'm going to like, what time were you born? I'm going to plug in your chart. And of course, she's a projector.
Of course.
Of course. And so I guess this is a bit of a personal question, but would also, I think, apply to clients. What resources would you share, or how would you explain this to someone kind of one-off? Because I think she might not be the only projector that identifies as a highly sensitive person or socially anxious or attaches herself perhaps to some labels that are a bit less productive rather than,
Yes.
well, this is your superpower.
Right.
But then like, of course, me as a manifesting generator is all like, "Oh, I'm just going to shoot off a million things to her and tell her, and then overwhelm her. Right. So like,
Yeah.
as a projector, do you have any advice for me?
Yeah, so I think my greatest advice is just to inform her, right? Inform your manifestor side of this creative energy that you have explored today and what you learned in the process. And reflect back to her exactly what you learned. I learned that projectors are incredible guides, but they first need recognition. In that one sentence, you will probably like see her more deeply than she's probably ever been seen. She'll be like, I am here to guide. And I do feel like I need recognition and nobody recognizes me because we're too busy trying to initiate on the energy without waiting for the invitation. So you can say, I learned that projectors are here to guide. That's their superpower. They're amazing at it. They need to be recognized to do that. And if they're not recognized, that it can feel like they're really bitter. But a part of recognizing and giving their advice is to wait for the invitation first. That really helps them. You're probably going to you're going to get enough in her that she'll be like, tell me more. You can even say like, I learned you're kind of like a sailboat. Like the world is more like a Maserati and they require gas, but like you're a sailboat, you require wind. It's like completely different. And it's so cool. And so you also can play in that world for yourself of if she's giving you advice and you are not ready for it and you resist it, because even though we love someone and they're in our sphere, it doesn't mean that they waited for the invitation for us to lean in to give them the advice. Okay. when you recognize they're giving you advice and you're not ready for it, it is okay for you to drop down, honor that you're resisting it, and honor that she's a projector and she has something amazing to give you. And you can also say, you know what, I am receiving this right now, but there is some resistance. So I'm going to sit with it. That will do more to recognize her and help her in the long term feel like seen and heard than anything. And then if you just encourage her to ask this question, if she's a projector, and this is for all my projectors. So if you have future client projectors, the question that you ask or you give them to ask people is, can I lean in? Is it okay if I lean in? I have something to give you. Would you like to receive it? Like, I'm setting up the invitation, right? Because I want to make sure that somebody's ready. And if they're not, and there's two ways you'll know. One, they'll just tell you, no, I don't want your advice. So like, I'm good. I'm wanting to talk it out. Cool. I'm not going to tell you anything. We move on, right? The other is they'll say, I've done it before where I'm like, I have something I could give you, can I give you some feedback on this? And they'll be like, yeah, sure. They'll kind of do this like, yes, but body language is no. And so then I give them like, I give them glitter. I don't give them the whole art project. Okay. Like, I'm just like, here's a piece of glitter. Okay, bye. And sometimes that's enough, right? So I hope that answers your question with working with your sister on how you can lean in with her. Yeah. The personal questions are sometimes the best questions because those are the ones that help us understand how to embody this human design work for ourselves, which allows us to work with our clients better. I didn't know how to work with my clients best until I integrated this work for myself and started working with my husband and my best friend and my close people. Then I was able to see the reflection of, oh, this is how that energy works. This is how I work with that energy. So this is how I can teach others how to work with this energy.
I think we're out of time. We have like 1 minute if there was a burning desire. No? Oh, okay. Codie, friggin' amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Want to talk to you all day long.
And I want to talk about it all day long, as you can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Did you guys get something out of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
I mean, it's like, I can't imagine you guys leaving here and being like, okay, I'm done with human design now. Like, please reach out to Codie. She's amazing. She'll do sessions. Like, I think it's just such an awesome tool, like for us to get to know ourselves. And then like Darcy and I, we just realized like why we probably work so well together. Like, so from a business standpoint, I think that's friggin' amazing. Like, no wonder like we flow. Cause like, I'm like pure generator and I'm like, thank God you're not. Like, we would just be like, nothing would just be like all over the place. So she grounds the heck out of me. But anyway, thank you, Codie. So please, did you guys all, I think we put it in too early, Codie's contact, but then I re-put it in. So make sure you take that down, and I'll be putting her video on the website if you guys want to hear anything.
And for the recording, since it probably won't be in the chat, my website is www.codieLea.com. You can reach out to me. You can email me. My email is codie@codielee.com. I'm also on all the Instagrams, but you can find everything and access everything from the website. So please connect with me. Also connect with me if you just have questions or if you want, just to geek out and tell me what your human design is. Like, I'm all about it.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, all of you. Bye.
See you. Okay.
You want to stop recording?
You can unmute yourself, girl.
Michelle, you can stop the recording.
How do I do that?
Mm.
Oh, I see it.